Time travelers, double suns in the sky, and colliding worlds, these are real, parallel universes captured on camera that scientists can't explain. One of the strangest phenomena caught on camera is the double sun effect. Basically, people have filmed what looks like two suns in the sky, and while this could be an optical illusion, some people think there could be something else going on. That what we're actually seeing is a glimpse into a parallel universe or an alternate reality. Jim Kaller, an astronomer at the University of Illinois, explains that the double sun is likely an optical refraction, but he calls it a, quote, pretty darn rare one, and admits that it's not fully explained by science, saying, "I doubt it's been computer modeled. There must have been some blob of atmosphere somewhere that caused this truly spectacular phenomenon, which in a sense is a mirage," end quote. Now, typically mirages happen when particles in the air bend light, but they're usually vertically aligned with the light source, not side by side like this double sun effect sometimes is. Kaller thinks that it could be a thick patch of atmosphere moving in front of the sun. There's even a historical reference to this in a book called Light and Color in the Outdoors by Flemish astronomer Marcel Meniert. He describes double sun phenomena in such detail that it almost matches the modern sightings. He wrote, "So many other instances have been reported that there is no longer any doubt about observations of sun and mock suns being at exactly the same altitude." But even with all this, experts still aren't sure what exactly causes this effect. Grant Perry, an atmospheric scientist, said, "This is not a common optical phenomenon that we're seeing here. It's definitely one of those effects that leaves you wondering, could we be seeing something more than just an optical illusion?" Imagine for a minute, if you will, that you've just died in a freak accident. Suddenly you open your eyes and an entity is standing over you explaining that you're dead, but has given you the opportunity to travel back in time to a universe running parallel to your own in order to save yourself from dying. Of course, what I've just outlined here is complete fantasy, but many people have watched this video here and conjured up similar ideas and stories. In this CCTV footage, we see two men walking down the street at night. Two men who look pretty similar, mind you, both wearing dark clothing, both around the same height, same male pattern baldness. Now, the man trailing behind catches up to the dude in front and taps him on the shoulder just as a car passes, and then out of nowhere, this metal object swings out just in time for the guy to jump out of the way. If he hadn't received that warning tap on the shoulder, the thing would have plowed right into him. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this video. First of all, and what most people point out immediately about this video, is the fact that the guy who gives the warning tap seems to know what's about to happen. He doesn't look back and react like, "Oh God, we're about to be hit, I better warn this guy." No, he doesn't even seem concerned with his own safety at all. He just is always looking forward, taps the guy, totally calm, almost as if he's experienced this before. He also doesn't stick around, doesn't look at the guy directly, just taps him and then moves on, almost like he doesn't want to be seen. But why wouldn't he want the other guy to see his face? Why the hurry to get away? Well, the fun theory, of course, that started to spread online is that the dude who gave the tap is a time traveler, possibly even a future version of the dude who nearly got hit. Now, is this the only explanation? Well, of course not, but it's a fun idea, and I think there's enough strangeness about this video that it's not easy to chalk up to mere coincidence. Even if there's nothing extraordinary about this video, it's pretty miraculous how this man was mere inches from death. The multiverse theory may actually have some observational science evidence behind it. Scientists at the European Space Agency Planck Orbital Observatory have been studying something called CMB, or cosmic microwave background radiation. This radiation is left over from the early super hot stages of our universe. Now, back in 2010, a team from the UK, Canada, and the US discovered 4 strange circular patterns in the CMB. It's not clear what these patterns mean, but one cool idea is that they could be the result of our universe bumping into another one. In 2015, another scientist at the European Space Agency, Rand Ramchari, made a similar discovery. He took a model of the CMB and removed everything we know, like stars, gas, and dust, and expected the image to be pretty much blank. But when he did that, it wasn't blank at all. Chari found areas of the sky that were 4,500 times brighter than they should have been. His theory, those light patches could be imprints from a collision between our universe and another one. Did some kind of black hole open this girl's apartment? So this woman had a very strange incident involving her Apple Pencil. Seems there was some sort of glitch, but not the type of glitch tech support could help you with. So she talks about how she only has one Apple Pencil, has only ever had one Apple Pencil, and it's immediately recognizable because it was damaged by a dog. She also kept her Apple Pencil in the same place, the case on her desk by her iPad, but one day a second Apple Pencil suddenly turns up in her apartment and it's got the same bite marks. Now, if we're to assume this story is true, that is pretty dang strange, but stuff like this happens. I think we've all had an experience in the same kind of vein, finding two of something you thought you only had one of, personal belongings going missing and then turning up in a very obvious spot, stuff like that. What's going on? I can't say for sure, but is it possible that different realities briefly cross over and sometimes items from some parallel version of reality get left behind? I don't know. Back in 1995, NASA pointed the Hubble Space Telescope at what looked like the most boring spot in the sky, an area of darkness in the constellation Ursa Major, where there didn't seem to be anything at all. They left the shutter open for 10 days straight, and when the image came back, it shocked everyone. That quote-unquote empty patch of space was actually packed with thousands of galaxies, not stars, not planets, entire galaxies, each one holding billions of stars. The photo became known as the Hubble Deep Field, and it's still one of the most incredible space images ever taken. It's crazy how far away some of these galaxies are. We're talking about light that left them more than 12 billion years ago, meaning we're literally looking back in time almost to the beginning of the universe. And this was just one tiny piece of sky. Astronomers compared it to looking through a straw. They later repeated the experiment with newer cameras, creating the Ultra Deep Field and the Extreme Deep Field, which revealed even more distant galaxies. Some of the faintest smudges in those pictures are the oldest galaxies ever seen. In this next clip, a group of people are hanging outside when they notice something strange. It's the middle of the night, but all of a sudden the sky lights up bright blue, like it instantly turned into daytime. And then, just as quick, everything snaps back to darkness. And yeah, there's a storm rolling in, you can see heavy clouds and faint flashes of lightning in the distance, but this was clearly not a normal lightning strike. The whole sky lit up so bright it looked like the sun had risen for a few seconds before disappearing again. And finally, this strange video was posted by a girl who seems to be experiencing something mysterious in her backyard, in that it changes when she goes from her balcony to the ground floor. And then she opens the back door and steps outside, and so as you can see, the backyard looks totally different from the view we saw on the balcony. Where did all the garbage go? Now, assuming this isn't a hoax, which is always possible, this is a pretty strange situation. But speaking of garbage though, I don't know if she had a party the night before or something, but dear God, what is with all that trash? Don't live like that. Raccoons are gonna get into it. So the idea that we're all living in just one of countless universes all running parallel to one another is a staple of a good number of science fiction stories, but as outlandish and hard to wrap our heads around as it may seem, there really could be some truth to it. Let's get into some of the theories that point towards the existence of multiple universes. And we're starting off the list with the bubble universes theory. So imagine the universe right after the Big Bang, acting kind of like a giant balloon, rapidly inflating. This is the main concept of the cosmic inflation theory. According to this theory, the early universe expanded extremely quickly. Now here's where it gets kind of interesting. Picture this rapid expansion like different regions of the balloon inflating at their own speeds. In some areas, inflation happens a bit faster, in others, it's a bit slower. This creates pockets or bubbles within this expanding universe, kind of like different regions on the surface of the inflating balloon. And each of these bubbles, a unique set of physical laws and conditions takes shape. Each bubble becomes its own little universe with its own rules of how things work, its own arrangement of matter, energy, and who knows what else. Next up we have cold spots. So imagine you're an astrophysicist looking at the vastness of space. Back in 2015, scientists in Hawaii noticed something strange, a huge empty patch where there should have been 10,000 galaxies. They called it a cold spot because it seemed like everything there had just vanished. Now, scientists at Durham University came up with a pretty fascinating idea about this mysterious cold spot. They think it might be because our universe collided with another universe, almost like two giant soap bubbles bumping into one another. When these universes collide, it could push all the energy and stuff out of a specific area, creating a big empty space, the cold spot. We might be living in one bubble universe out of trillions, and this cold spot could be the aftermath of a collision with another bubble universe. It's a bit like when two ripples in a pond meet and create a calm spot in the water. Alright, now this one is pretty cool, even though it has math in the title. It's the mathematical multiverse theory. This idea centers around the concept that our entire universe is like a giant cosmic equation, and every bit of it, from tiny particles to vast galaxies, can be described and understood using math. Understood by other people and not by me, because math was just... I get sick even just saying the word. That's the core idea, though, behind the mathematical universe theory. This theory suggests that there are countless mathematical structures, and each one represents a different universe. Since there are infinite mathematical possibilities, this would also mean, in theory, an infinite number of universes. So think of it a bit like this. Our universe is just one solution to the grand mathematical equation that is existence. In this mathematical multiverse, each universe has its own unique set of rules and conditions, an infinite collection of parallel universes where physics and math can be totally different from what we know. For instance, one example I tend to use: in one universe, gravity might act in a way that pulls things sideways, while in another, it might pull things up. If you're unaware, our gravity pulls us down, but the possibilities are really endless in this theory. Next on the list, of course, black holes. I mean, we gotta talk about black holes in a video like this. Black holes are mysterious regions in space where gravity is so strong that nothing, even light, can escape their gravitational pull. In the traditional understanding, once something crosses the event horizon of a black hole, it seemingly is just gone forever, lost to the singularity at the center. But some physicists have a different idea that black holes could lead to parallel universes. It's called the wormhole hypothesis. This idea here is that a black hole could potentially connect to a white hole or another region of space-time through a tunnel-like structure called a wormhole. A white hole is a hypothetical region where matter and light are ejected, basically the opposite of a black hole. I mean, really, that is the opposite. So instead of being forever stuck inside the black hole, the matter and information falling into a black hole might be transferred through a wormhole to another region of space, or even a completely separate universe, almost acting like a bridge between our universe and a parallel one. Alright, the simulated multiverse theory. The simulated multiverse theory suggests that our entire universe is basically a massive computer simulation. Imagine our reality being like a highly advanced video game or computer program that we're just unknowingly living inside of, and everything we experience is generated by some incredibly powerful computer. Now, who could be the ones running this simulation? It could be extraterrestrial beings with highly advanced technology, or even humans from the far future running a simulation to learn about their own ancestry, like a gigantic virtual reality experiment. But if our universe is just one big simulation, there could be countless other simulations running simultaneously, each representing a separate universe with its own unique set of rules. Basically, it's just a bunch of alien children learning about us, and they're all just in their own little screens watching different versions of it.
Number 5, spirit animal. Do you believe in spirit animals? I kind of do. I want to, at least. Ever since I watched Harry Potter, I always wanted a Patronus. Mine would be a frog for sure. It'd be like a little lanky frog. Wouldn't be cool at all. This next one makes me want to believe. Coming from user Less Cold, they say, about 30 years ago, I was a young college student heading back to college after break in an overnight bus. I was about 19, didn't drink or anything, had no history of mental illness, and was reading a book when seamlessly I wasn't in the bus anymore. I was now was swimming around a rock formation which I knew was part of my hunting territory and was chasing a fish, which I then caught in my mouth and could feel the bones crushing between my teeth and it wriggling against my whiskers. That's how they posted it. No in between. They're just like, yeah, I was reading a book and all of a sudden I'm a fish. I was totally at ease. I was fast and agile and I could feel the drag of the water, like, you know, the pull of the current, question mark. I like how they included that. Mansplaining the current of the water. They're like, I being a fish know this, but do you know about this? I'm like, yeah, we know about currents, man. I'll continue. As I moved effortlessly through it, I knew my body and where I was going and what I was doing, and there was no alarm whatsoever that anything was amiss. You know, I didn't realize that I was really a 19-year-old on a bus. The whole experience couldn't have lasted longer than 30 seconds or so, and then just as seamlessly as I once was there, I was then again back on the bus. I remember sitting there for a second, staring at the page of my book before, you know, having a WTF just happened reaction kicked in, and then I had a bit of a mental freak out. Then a few years later, I saw a documentary about sea otters, and I knew then that that's what I had been for that brief moment in time. I knew it's impossible, but it happened to me, and surely I can't be the only one. I don't know, man. I've never been a sea otter before. Chris, have you been a sea otter? You don't think so? You don't think? You never know. Never say never, though. Has anybody ever heard of something like this, or has it happened to you? Have you been reading a book, and then all of a sudden you're a sea otter eating a fish with whiskers? If so, sound off down below. Sea otters are just smacking the keyboard. They're like, help me switch back. Number 4, switching universes. Coming from Mulks23, this one is so specific that it may very well just be real. Honestly, I'm a little convinced. I've been wanting to share this for some time now. A few months ago, one morning, I believe when I woke up, I did so to a different universe. Similar to ours, but different in some aspects. Before I went to sleep the night before, I kept my Surface tablet on my nightstand and it was absolutely fine. The next day when I opened it though, I could see a large crack across the top. There was nothing, repeat nothing, that could have caused the crack. I was disappointed, of course, the tablet's new, but I didn't think much of it. However, over the course of the following days, I noticed some things/events are significantly different than how I remember them to be. An actress that I know was married to a gangster, is happily now married to a businessman. A different actress married said gangster, a name that I would have definitely known. I'm from India and I settled in US, and this is a Bollywood actress in question. A series that was being released on Amazon Prime is now on Netflix, question mark. Yeah, that happens all the time. I'm still asking those questions myself. I'm watching Harry Potter on like 3 different platforms, like what's going on? The movie Morbius, I've seen this movie. I thought they must have remade this or something, but nope, it was a new movie. A few other things as well, but those I can attribute to misplaced memories. Not the above though. Also, I definitely did not hit my head or anything which could have caused me to remember things differently. I mean, after all of that, I gotta ask, how is Morbius? It doesn't look that bad, honestly. Hope Spider-Man's in it. Thanks for sharing, Mulks23. Hopefully you're in the right universe. Number 3, cosmic commute. This one has me stumped, folks, I'm not gonna lie. Username IcyFlame2U says, in January, I left my friend's home at almost midnight. I live not even 10 minutes north of her. I remember getting in my car and then boom, I'm pulled over by the police. It's 2:10 a.m. now, and I'm 1 hour north of her, close to crossing state lines. In a city I have never been to, I don't even know how to get out there and what freeways I took, as we are not really close to any freeways. How did I get there, and what happened to a whole extra hour? When I returned home, I was having such anxiety from it all that I was throwing up and everything. We just don't understand what happened. The comments were supportive here. Some suggest to look into epilepsy, but the OP responded right after saying that they did, and luckily that wasn't the case. So, what do you guys think it is? Comment down below. I think definitely a time leap. That's pretty crazy. Number 2, dog treats and universe leaps. Anything involving dogs, I buy into it. I mean, who would lie about dogs for attention, right? Only psychos, I guess. Username mememan42069 says, when I was getting ready to go to my brother's house, I packed some stuff for my dog since he was coming. I put my dog's toys, leash, 2 dog shirts, and treats. I packed them all up, and when I got to my brother's house, I was looking for my dog's treats, and my dog's treats were not there. I vividly remember putting my dog's treats in a bag, and the weird thing was, when I got home, his treats were in the exact spots that I picked it up from, and it didn't fall out of the bag, and somebody didn't put it back because I live alone. So I was thinking maybe I slipped into a parallel universe where I didn't pack my dog treats. I've been weirded out by it for the past year, and I've been trying to come up with a better reason. I mean, that sounds alarming, 100%, but panicking about anything that involves dog treats, it's just hilarious to me. Sorry. Yeah, I hope you figure out your problem, but more importantly, I hope your dog doesn't get stiffed on treats again. And finally, number 1, 2016 again. This one caught my attention, caught it real bad. Posted 5 days ago by user Silence v Silence. They say, the universe is currently shifting, and it has been the past few days. The last time a change took place like this was November 2016-ish. Some of you already know this. I'm sure you felt it in the air over the past week like I have. It feels positive. I hope it is. First comment has tons of upvotes here, and it says, your ears ringing real bad too? Question mark. This is insane because my ears have been ringing a lot in the past month. I mentioned it to Olivia, swear to God.
Parallel universe universes have been the question that we have been trying to answer for years. Time travelers, glitches, Mandela effect, all possible answers to this fantastical theory. Noah, the alleged time traveler from 2030. Back in 2018, this guy had taken the world by storm. Although supposedly being from 2030, he's traveled all across the spectrum to the years 2060, 1999, and the year 2120, to which he also supposedly had video proof of what it would all look like. He explains that the clip he took was from Las Vegas and showcases flying cars to tall futuristic looking buildings and a very peculiar looking orange sky. Noah explained, "The red clouds are global warming. You can see it's everywhere. I can remember it being incredibly hot. I'm pretty sure they are working on it in the future." He also stated that some really crazy predictions for the future, some key ones being Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter will become president, scientists live on Mars, Instagram becoming a thing of the past, cures for illnesses, and finally being able to talk to aliens. Noah also disclosed taking anti-aging pills that keep him the same age throughout his journeys, since he claims that time traveling makes you gain years. Of course, no one really believed any of this, especially with the video, to most people looking like a cheap 3D rendering. One commenter even pointed out that he's using a phone from our time to show this, rather than some crazy futuristic one. Despite all this though, he took a lie detector test that really put him on the radar, and he passed it with flying colors. What he was saying came out truthfully. But then again, this wasn't done by professionals or with professional equipment, so who's to say if it means it's actually true? The deja vu and parallel universe theory. I had speculated this theory for a few years now, and I'm really happy that other people are discussing it. Majority of us know what deja vu is. A moment in our lives where we get this strange feeling that we've done something like this before. It's French for already seen, and there are some scientific theories for why this happens, such as temporal overlap. This is when the long-term and short-term memories blur together for a moment. Or subconscious familiarity, where your new surroundings have some similarities to an old one. The last being neural delays that create a false feeling that some event has occurred. But I like parallel universes theory better. To explain my favorite version of the theory, a deja vu is when your other self in a different universe and you in this universe accidentally overlap the same timelines. The two of you are living very different experiences, but for some reason we have one, or a few if you're like me, moments in time where the two timelines collide at the exact perfect moment. Our lives perfectly linked up together based on whatever choices we made to get us in that exact same moment of time. I would also love to hear your theories about this down in the comments below. This is a great way to transition into the mirror image universe theory. It could also link to the deja vu theory, but this theory specifically focuses on the moments before the Big Bang, and scientists coming up with a hypothesis that there was a universe completely mirror image to our version today. However, the only difference is that time is moving backwards in that universe. I'm not going to try and get deep with it, but the basic understanding of this theory is that the Big Bang is the center point of time, and because scientists believe in heavy symmetry within the universe, when it happened, it also created a negative version of time of our universe alongside ours. So, when you think of cracking an egg, what would happen instead in the other universe is that it would start out from the yolk on the ground and turn back into the egg. This theory started back in 2015, when some scientists were up in Antarctica researching high-energy particles. What we did know before is that there are high-energy particles coming towards Earth, which from my understanding is because our universe is constantly expanding outward. However, they discovered high-energy particles going away from our Earth in the opposite direction, as if they were going back in time. There was something pulling or stretching these particles the opposite way, as if the universe is expanding in another direction simultaneously.
Next up we have the flight into the future. In the 1930s, a British pilot claimed to have flown into a cloud bank only to emerge in what seemed to be the future. He described seeing unfamiliar aircraft and an altered landscape, but upon returning to his own time, he reported the incident, but unfortunately there was just no evidence to substantiate his experience. This story has been interpreted by some as a possible encounter with a time slip or a parallel dimension, but to me it really is just giving Manifest. I don't know if you guys have seen that show, but It's crazy, and I feel like maybe that show was based on what happened here. I don't know. Next up today we have the quantum thought exercise, which is simultaneously my favorite and least favorite on this entire list, because it stresses me out. While not an anecdote of an actual event, the quantum thought experiment is often associated with the idea of quantum immortality and is related to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Imagine a situation similar to the Schrodinger's cat experiment, where a physicist uses a potentially lethal mechanism that is triggered or not triggered based on a quantum event, like the decay of a radioactive atom. Okay, I know it sounds confusing. Stay with me, alright? In this thought experiment, every time the mechanism has a chance to be triggered, the universe would split, creating one reality where the physicist survives and another where they do not. However, the physicist, as an observer, would only ever experience the outcomes where they survive, hence the term quantum immortality. They would seemingly jump from one universe to another where they continue living, never experiencing their own death. The idea here is that, from the physicist's perspective, they might feel as though they are transitioning into different parallel universes where they continue to exist. It is a very mind-bending concept that suggests that our consciousness could persist in a multiverse, experiencing only those branches of reality where we survive. It's interesting, scary, unsettling. I don't know, that's just how I feel about this one. We have the alternate phases of Highway 167. There are accounts of people driving on familiar roads only to find themselves in completely unfamiliar landscapes or towns that just should not exist along their route. One particular story involves Highway 167, where drivers reported entering foggy patches and emerging into surroundings that appeared to be from a different time period or just a completely different reality, only to return to their known world upon retracing their route. It's just so creepy. I feel like we've talked about like a few specific scenarios that kind of deal with the same thing before. Just is so unsettling. I don't know, there's just something weird about that. Next up we have the man who woke up in a different marriage. This story is about a man who claimed to have woken up next to a woman he recognized, but in a life that wasn't his. He had memories of life with another woman, his actual wife, but in this new reality he was married to an old girlfriend. His job was different, and even his car in the driveway was not the one that he remembered. Despite extensive searches, he found no evidence of his former life and began to question his sanity until he suddenly returned to his original world with everything back to normal. This does sound like an absolute nightmare, but it also, like, you know, sometimes people think like, what would have happened if like things went this way or whatever, so maybe it would be kind of cool to get like a glimpse. Okay, and finally today we have the non-existent hotel, back with another strange hotel experience. This one starts off with a businessman traveling in Europe in the 1970s who claims to have stayed at a beautiful old-fashioned hotel. Nothing wrong with that. Upon returning to the city years later, he was unable to find the hotel. In fact, there were actually no records or evidence that it ever even existed. He even checked his old receipts and documents, which all referenced the hotel, yet no one in the city had any memory of such a place. This led him to believe that he might have spent a night in a parallel dimension. Imagine, you went to this mystery hotel and later realized you were staying in room 1408. Could you imagine? Oh, I would think that my whole life was a lie after that.
Let's talk about one of the most talked about photographs of all time, at least when it comes to the strange and unexplained. In 1941, a photo was snapped at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia. At first glance, this looks like your typical historical photo. It's black and white. People are dressed in 40s clothes, old school cameras, all that stuff. But wait, there's one guy in the photo who immediately catches your eye. He's wearing more modern looking sunglasses, a printed t-shirt, and holding what looks like a camera that's too small for the time. People online have gone wild with the idea that this guy was a time traveler who slipped into the past wearing clothes from the future. A hipster from today somehow stuck in the middle of a 1940s photo. A pretty wild and far-fetched idea, and of course some people have tried to debunk this one, saying the sunglasses were actually a style from the 1920s. The printed t-shirt, well, Well, on closer look, turns out it's just a sweater with a sports emblem on it. As for his camera, it was smaller than most, but portable cameras did exist back then. Boring, right? Well, sure, maybe all of that makes sense, but it doesn't stop people from wondering. Cause the guy does just stick out like a sore thumb, and at the end of the day, there's no way we can really know for sure. And that's not the only supposed time traveler captured on camera. There's also the story of Chaplin's time traveler. Take a look at this video here and see if you can spot anything odd, aside from the zebra statue. Yeah, see the woman walking in the background? Looks like she's holding something to her ear, right? Almost like a cell phone. Now, it's easy to look past this. I mean, cell phones are so common now that they almost seem like extensions of our bodies, but yeah, people didn't have cell phones back in the 1920s. In case you didn't know. Back in October of 2010, a filmmaker named George Clark uploaded a clip to YouTube titled Chaplin's Time Traveler. In the video, he's analyzing a bonus feature from the 1928 Charlie Chaplin movie The Circus. The clip shows footage from the movie's Los Angeles premiere, and if you look closely, there's that woman walking by holding what appears to be a strange device to her ear. Clark thought she was talking into a mobile phone, something that definitely wouldn't have existed in 1928. So it got people talking. Was this footage of a time traveler? Had this woman slipped into an alternate timeline from the future? Well, it's probably exactly what happened, but some people have some other more out there ideas. Nicholas Jackson, for example, an associate editor at The Atlantic, pointed out that the woman could have just been using a portable hearing aid. This was a very new piece of technology at the time, so it wasn't common to see, but it is possible. But, I mean, isn't time travel, or the idea that this was a woman crossed over from another reality, more plausible to you than an old-timey hearing aid? Well, we're finally here. I've done videos on the channel before talking about the Mandela effect without ever directly discussing one of the most famous of all time, the Darth Vader "Luke, I am your father" line. While considering James Earl Jones just recently passed away, and the title of the video being Parallel Universes Captured on Camera, I thought I'd give my 2 cents on this one. According to huge swaths of the population, the version of Star Wars we watch now is not the one we remember, and I'm not talking about all the George Lucas edits. This goes deeper, almost like the version we watched when we were young was from some alternate universe, or we've all slipped into an alternate universe ourselves. At least those of us that remember the line being "Luke, I am your father," and not just "No, I am your father." Considering this is one of the most famous movie moments in history, it really is strange how often people would get this wrong. Every Vader impression at recess began with "Luke." Parodies would get the line wrong. One that sticks out to me is in Toy Story 2 with Zurg's line, "No, Buzz, I am your father." So what's going on here? Are a bunch of us simply misremembering the line, or have we all really slipped into a galaxy far, far away? So this video was posted to Reddit by user Upstairs Cash 8400, and it's pretty bizarre. At first, it just looks like an empty street with a bird in the sky until you realize that that bird's not moving. Then things get even stranger when we see a mother and son both looking up at the bird, completely confused about what they're seeing. So this is not just a glitch in the video. Now, sure, they could be part of a hoax, but if they are, they do a pretty good job of acting it out. What makes this so weird is that there's nothing behind the bird. It's just open air. It's not near a building. It's not like it could be a sculpture or something. It's just hovering. No strings, nothing. Definitely a bizarre one. And finally, we have the WOW signal. This mysterious radio signal was picked up in 1977 by an Ohio State University radio telescope, lasting just 72 seconds. It got its name from astronomer Jerry R. Amon, who wrote "WOW" next to the data printout. The signal's frequency and intensity were unlike anything we've seen from natural sources, leading some to speculate that it could have come from extraterrestrial life, but there's another theory that it might have come from a parallel universe. Something, whatever created this signal, could have dipped into a black hole and is now in a completely different universe. Of course, less exciting explanations like a passing comet or space debris haven't been ruled out either. While there's no definitive proof of anything, it's definitely worth checking out the recording. It's pretty spooky sounding. A man in Spain wakes up alone in a hospital, the year showing 2027 on every device. Yet the world around him is frozen in 2020, with entire cities completely empty. Astronomers captured a black hole's corona the size of our solar system, only to find flickers of light behaving in unexplainable ways. And in the middle of Patagonia, a camera trap caught descending lights, moving at nearly 600 miles per hour, what locals call the bad lights. This is real evidence caught on camera that parallel universes are crossing into ours. So there's this guy, Unicoso Breviente, on Instagram, who's he's got a pretty insane story. He says that he woke up in a hospital in Valencia, Spain, completely alone. No clue who he was or how he got there. Even stranger, all the electronics read 2027. He found his hospital records and discovered that he'd been admitted on February 10th, 2021, unconscious with a high fever. Now, he's been posting all these short videos exploring the city, but it's always empty. Hospitals, police stations, fire stations, metros, airports, highways, all totally void of people. Of course, folks online constantly call him out for faking it, but some of his posts are pretty intriguing. He films himself in restricted areas, even taking cars, motorcycles, and jewelry. On March 23rd, he found an old Spanish Civil War bomb shelter. In it, he found a folder. And in that folder was some very strange information pertaining to him. It said he was trapped in some other dimension between 2021 and 2027. He'd been part of some secret mission. There was also blueprints for a time machine. The folder had equations and diagrams that eventually seemed connected to a particle accelerator at the Valencia Physics Institute. Now, it's all pretty outlandish, but it does make for a pretty interesting watch. Is this dude really posting videos from some alternate dimension he's trapped in? I mean, I'd love to think that, but if nothing else, it's very creative. Astronomers recently got an incredible look at a black hole called RxJ1131, and the photo they captured is pretty cool. The black hole itself can't be seen, but the superheated gas around it, called the corona, stretches about as far as our entire solar system. When researchers looked closely at the photo, they noticed tiny flickers in the light that didn't make sense. They were only able to see this level of detail because a galaxy sitting between us and the black hole kinda acts like a giant zoom lens. The galaxy's gravity bends and magnifies the light from the black hole, creating multiple images and letting astronomers spot details they normally couldn't. Lead researcher Mattis Ryback said, quote, "Within a few days of looking at the data, we realized, okay, this does not look right. The flickers weren't coming from the black hole. They appeared independently across the images. Turns out that individual stars in the foreground galaxy were briefly magnifying different parts of the corona. By studying these flickers in the photo, the team could map the corona and even get hints about the black hole's magnetic fields. So the point is, they're getting to learn a lot about this black hole through these images. And if we know anything about black holes, it's that we really don't know a whole lot. Black holes are incredibly mysterious. What happens to things that are pulled in? Where do they go? Do they connect to other parts of the universe? Could they be portals to parallel universes? At this point, we have no idea. It was just after midnight on January 21st in Chile's Patagonia region. Quiet, empty, middle of nowhere. A wildlife camera trap set up by the University of Magallanes to study animals suddenly snapped 3 photos in the span of 2 seconds. What shows up isn't an animal though. It's a set of bright descending lights. According to biologist Alejandro Kush, quote, "Apparently these lights were initially distant, approached and remained in front of the camera, dazzling it in a movement that appears to be descending." Now, this camera wasn't near a road or houses. It was in a meadow, far off from anything man-made. And these traps are designed to prevent tampering. They've got infrared, motion sensors, so this is pretty strange. But it's not the first time strange lights like this have been reported. Locals have talked about what they call bad lights. For generations they've talked about it, describing them as spirits crossing the fields at night. Scientists and UFO researchers have both looked at these photos. Some think it could be a rare plasmoid, kind of like a ball of plasma similar to ball lightning. Thing is, there were no storms, no conditions at the time that would have caused something like that. UFO researcher Freddie Alexis ran tests and calculated that if it was a distant flying object, It was moving at around 590 miles per hour. News of this just came out the other day. Last October, off the coast of Yemen, a US Air Force drone captured something no one can really explain. A leaked video, handed anonymously to Congressman Eric Burleson, shows what he called an orb hovering over the water. An MQ-9 Reaper drone locks onto it and launches a Hellfire missile. One of the most destructive weapons in the US arsenal. These things are designed to shred tanks. But in the footage, the missile smashes directly into the orb and nothing happens. Journalist George Knapp described it during a hearing, saying, quote, "That's the Hellfire missile smacking into the UFO and just bouncing right off, and it kept going." The impact seemed to nudge the object slightly, even knock some debris loose, but then it just corrects its path and carries on fine. 3 military veterans confirmed what everyone was thinking. There's no human technology that could take a direct Hellfire hit and stay intact. The Department of Defense, when pressed, refused to comment. Burleson didn't speculate on exactly what the object was, but he made it clear that this was not normal. Next, we have the string theory multiverse. So scientists have a theory called string theory. Instead of thinking of particles as tiny dots, they imagine them as super tiny vibrating strings. So string theory says that there are more than just the usual 3 dimensions of space and of time that we're used to. Imagine there are extra dimensions, but they're so tiny and curled up that we can't see them in our everyday lives. Mathematicians call these curled up dimensions Calabi-Yau manifolds, which are basically complex shapes used to describe these hidden dimensions. In the world of string theory, these extra dimensions can have different configurations or setups, kind of like multiple radio stations, each playing a different song. In this case, each configuration could represent a different set of physical laws and constants, the rules that govern how things work in our universe. Our universe, in this grand scheme of things, is like tuning into one specific radio station. But according to the string theory multiverse idea, there are countless other stations out there, each playing its own unique tune or each representing a different universe. So why does our universe have the particular rules that it does? The string theory multiverse brings in something called the anthropic principle. The principle says that the reason our universe has the specific laws it does is because those laws allow for the existence of life. If things were different, we wouldn't be here to even ponder it. Our next sciencey theory on the list is quantum entanglement. So let's imagine we have 2 particles. We'll call these particle A and particle B, and these 2 particles become entangled. This means that they're somehow connected in a way that the state of one particle instantly influences the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This actually happens. This is very strange because in our everyday understanding of the world, information can't travel faster than the speed of light. But with entanglement, changes in one particle's state seems to happen instantaneously in the other, even if they're light years apart. So how does this relate to the possibility of parallel universes? Well, one idea is that the particles exist in multiple states at the same time until we observe them. And when we observe one particle, it instantly affects the other particle's state, no matter the distance. Some scientists speculate that when we observe one particle and it chooses a particular state, the other particle might be choosing a different state in a parallel universe. Pretty hard to wrap your head around, but alright, this next one is also pretty trippy. See if you can wrap your head around this, because I have a hard time doing so, but the holographic multiverse theory. So for this, we need to imagine that our universe is like a giant 3D movie being projected onto a screen, and that all of that information making up this cosmic movie projection is actually encoded on the surface of that screen. In simple terms, the holographic principle is based on the idea that the information needed to describe a 3-dimensional structure like our universe can be represented in a 2-dimensional way, like a hologram. So essentially, all the details of a 3D object are somehow encoded on a flat surface. So some scientists have suggested that our universe, as we perceive it, might actually be this holographic projection, and this would mean that everything we see around us might be a kind of illusion, and the real action is happening on the screen or the boundary of our universe. So instead of thinking of separate universes with different physical laws, the holographic multiverse suggests that all these universes, including ours, might be interconnected holographic projections. Each quote-unquote projection could represent a different set of physical laws, making it seem like its own distinct universe. This would be like having multiple TV screens, each showing a different channel. These channels, or universes, might seem independent, but the information that creates them is all encoded on the same screen. Next, we have probably the most mysterious radio signal ever detected, simply known as the WOW signal. So in 1977, the Ohio State University's radio telescope received a very odd radio signal from outer space that lasted for about 72 seconds. The signal was so unique and unexpected that astronomer Jerry R. Iman, who was reviewing the data printout, circled the signal and just wrote WOW next to it, hence giving it that name. What made the WOW signal particularly intriguing was its frequency and intensity, which didn't match any known natural source. So what was it? Well, aliens, of course, have always been brought into the conversation, but there's also the idea that the signal might be connected to parallel universes. The signal's characteristics were so unusual that some have suggested it could be a form of communication or energy transmission from a parallel universe. Lastly, we have deja vu. Now, this one is a bit different than everything else on this list in that it's a phenomenon we all experience relatively frequently that science hasn't been able to give a convincing explanation for, and that's led to a lot of fascinating ideas as to why it happens, including, of course, the existence of parallel universes. I say science hasn't been able to come up with a convincing explanation because, I'm sorry, but no, I do not buy that deja vu is just experiencing something similar to something you've experienced before. That is just the lamest explanation, and it seems to be the only one that the scientific world can come up with. Like, you know what we experience that's very similar day to day? Going to work, waking up, eating foods we've had before, kissing our partner if we're lucky enough to have one. Most of our lives are pretty repetitive day to day, but like we're not experiencing deja vu on a constant basis. When it pops up, it's noticeable, uncanny to an eerie degree. So what's going on here? Well, one idea is that two parallel universes perfectly line up for a brief moment, and a version of yourself from a parallel universe is in the same exact situation, performing the exact same action at the same time as you. Thus, you get that odd feeling like you've done this before.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Katie rocks. You ever hop in the shower first thing in the morning and it feels like literal paradise? Otherworldly, some would say. Well, a new TikTok trend has me meditating in the shower now, apparently. Here we go. TikTok users left, right, and center are stepping forward, or rather backwards, with their claims on entering parallel universes. Nashville model Katie Rocks recently kicked this off, and she used the social media platform to recall a 2017 trip to Paris that some of her classmates claimed missed the flight, although Katie saw them with her own eyes. I remember walking on that aircraft past two of my friends and sitting like 3 rows behind them. Then the 4 of us took a taxi back to the apartments we were staying in while we were in school, and I distinctly remember this. 2 days later, they're talking about how they weren't 3 rows in front of us, and to this day I have no idea why they remember missing the flight. That's way too close to the plot of Final Destination. Honestly, this creeps me out just reading about it. I can't even begin to unravel this one. No way. The same user, Katie Rocks, posted again a month later, this time saying she's since discovered the ability to shift realities. Showers. Hot showers are the key, apparently. I would have guessed baths, but showers are cool too. We'll take those. Number 9, a familiar face. Username High Life No Miller Lite posted this one a couple months back on Reddit. Great name, also. Gotta say, that's a really good name. It's since got a lot of attention. Let me know what you think. They say, I'm from a very dry, hot state in the US, and I was visiting California on a trip with my wife. While out eating, we both witnessed a person that looked exactly like me. Same typical mid-fade and head dents inherited from my father. Same body type, only chubby rather than my more slim and athletic frame. I saw the side profile from the back as they walked away from view, and it was my exact face. That's so creepy. My wife had a direct view but could not remember directly what my face looked like, but she noted similarities from my body to head and even the way that I walked. I couldn't believe what we saw. Any thoughts? Question mark. I mean, if you didn't mention the head dents and got that specific, this wouldn't have stuck with me like it did. I also love the subtle roast on the other you. You're like, yeah, this guy was just like me, only, you know, not ripped. Otherwise, that's quite creepy. Thanks for sharing. Number 8, Quantum leap. So yeah, I went down that rabbit hole I talked about and I discovered another TikTok. How fun, we love these, awesome. This quantum leap was obtained by Marian Valenza. She took to the social media platform to implore others to take the leap. You know, no more manifestation Mondays. The key to these quantum leaps is a hot shower. Yeah, a hot shower, how convenient is that? Thank God it doesn't suck, you know? Thank God it's not a cold ice bath or else no one would know. Valenza explains the first rule here. Number one is that you want to give yourself enough time because you don't want to rush this. Obviously, you want to do this with intentionality, she says. Yeah, sorry I'm late, boss. I don't want to rush my hot quantum shower. You know how it is. He's like, oh yeah, classic. Next step is to literally visualize the water cleansing you so that it removes all your limiting beliefs, the negative thoughts that you have, all the things holding you back from stepping into your higher self. Visualize not currently being late for work. And then there you go, you're set. I'm gonna try this tomorrow morning. I'm just gonna have a hot quantum shower and arrive at 10:15. Number 7, Sleep Street. This one comes from username Oopsies. It's like oopsies, but with a bit more Reoccurring dreams have never been so haunting. Forgot it's a dark list. Here we go. Ever since I was a teenager, I've dreamed about an alternate life where I go to university and work in a city that I've never been in. It started around when I was 16 or 17 and now I'm 25. It's super detailed where I go on hikes, I hang out with friends, I bike through neighborhoods and do mundane everyday life things. The university is outside of a major city and I'm always exploring nature, beaches, islands, all that jazz. Last night I was feeling sick and in return had one of the most vivid dreams I've had in a long time. I met someone and developed a deep relationship that felt incredibly emotional and real. Luckily I woke up right when I was trying to navigate Google Maps to drive to a park, so I remember the streets that we were on. The street was called Dutch Island Road. I never heard of it in real life, so I decided to look it up. The only thing that popped up was a rural area in Rhode Island. It wasn't exactly the same layout of the roads I remember on the map, but the nature and area looked eerily similar to what I saw while driving. I start looking around the area, clicking different locations, and I start to freak out on how everything looks just like in my dream. Mind you, I've never been to Rhode Island, but the weirdest part is that specific buildings in the Rhode Island University and Warwick area ones, those are the same ones that I saw in my dream all the time. I've always thought that my dreams are a glimpse of living an alternate universe, and I feel like this detail solidifies the potentiality of it being a reality. Thoughts? Too many big words. Those are my thoughts. Potentiality. I'm gonna start using that in the next list. You'll hear that from me in the future, for sure. Otherwise, so scary. Hope that goes away. Or doesn't? I don't know. Do you like it? I wouldn't like that. If I dreamt about an alternate life, I'm like, yeah, I actually have 2 jobs. It's exhausting. I never sleep. Number 6, good times, dad times. Coming from Reddit user Apprehensive Humor 55, they say, when I was young, from the ages of around 3 to 10, I was truly convinced I'd already lived a full life. I remember being around 40 years old with a wife and 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Then one day, I just woke up as a child and my past was all just a big blur with random memories that would come to me here or there. I'm smiling because this is funny, but like it's so scary. This is my biggest fear, I think, in life. It made no sense. My parents said that I used to tell stories about when I was a dad and they would just laugh it off and be like, oh, that's your imagination, obviously. But deep down, I genuinely did have these strange memories of a past life. For instance, when I was 4 years old, my family went to Disney World and the whole car ride down, I was telling stories about when I was a dad and I went to Disney World. Just a kid in the back seat with milk like, oh yeah, these roads. Still haven't fixed them. The weirdest thing is that when we got to Disney World, I knew that I'd already been there before. I knew where everything in the park was and was essentially showing my family everything. At that time, my family just thought it was weird that I knew where everything was, but at the time in my head, it all made sense. To me, I just knew where all the rides were because of when I was a dad. After a while, I stopped telling these stories of when I was a dad because my siblings would always make fun of me for it. I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing, this is my worst, I'm laughing at you a little bit, this is crazy. Eventually, I just started going on with my life and haven't thought about much of it since, although I wish I did because the memories back then were much more vivid and real than how they are now. He's gonna be so confusing 30 years to his kids. He's like, when I was a dad for the first time, Disney was way less busy. Kids are like, first time? What other family? What are you talking about? Why is mom crying? That's so scary. I buy into this. I don't know, the afterlife, maybe that past dad died and then you're reborn? I don't know, that's scary. I don't want to think of it.
Let's take a brain breather with some Mandela effects. This one, specifically from Toy Story, is new to me. Do you remember Woody's catchphrase being, "There's a snake in my boot"? Because that's how I remember it, and the majority of people who grew up with it. But we were wrong, because the actual phrase of it goes, "There's a snake in my boots." It was plural, and it was never singular. But of course, the internet didn't agree with this, with the biggest reason being that it grammatically doesn't make sense. The proper sentence should be, "There are snakes in my boots." And it also doesn't help with the fact that the Woody toys that came out all say, "There's a snake in my boot." There is no plural for those. So what gives? There was only one Reddit comment claiming that Pixar confirmed it's always been boot and not boots. But I haven't been able to find an article on that. How do you guys guys remember it? Tell me down in the comments below. Imagine finding a watch while you're exploring a tomb. Of course, watches have been around for quite a while at this point, but what makes the famous tiny Swiss watch so special? In 2008, archaeologists discovered a remarkable piece of metal that was the size of a ring, bearing the face of a watch that was marked specifically at 10:06. On the back was the word Swiss engraved. This was found in a tomb that had been sealed away for more than 400 years, and yet this watch was only 100 years old. How is that possible? Especially when Switzerland wasn't an established country at the time. The tomb was speculated to have been created during the Ming Dynasty that ruled from 1368 to 1644, and watches were apparently not a thing in that area at the time. My question, however, though, is how sure are we that it was sealed for that long? What are the odds that someone had gone in there prior to the archaeologist but just decided on not taking or touching anything? It's possible, but then why did they leave the watch ring? People obviously speculate that there were maybe time travelers that left it as a clue for their existence, since many of those already exist across the internet. People love to believe we live in a simulation, with major ones being caught when watching sports. This specific video, uploaded by Highlight Heaven on YouTube, arranged a variety of clips from football that feed into this simulation theory, and there were a few that stuck out to me. The first two clips involve some very synchronized movement of football players getting up. Simultaneously, at the exact same time, their movements are mirrored perfectly, down to the hand placements, to the tempo, you name it. The biggest one that people have their eyes on is when one of the football players does this really weird, almost floating maneuver to get up. They barely use their hands as they hoist themselves from off the ground, as if all their power is coming from the balls of their feet. Sure, they have the momentum of pushing upward, but after that it looks like it's all in the foot power. But I do have a theory for these weird movements, to which I feel many of you have figured out by now. Football players are constantly practicing and drilling in certain movements, right? They've also probably been practicing the quickest and most efficient way of getting up when they get tackled, with one of these ways being the weird floating technique. I'm not a football player, but I've taken movement classes where we are drilled in certain ways of getting up properly and quickly. It's definitely a neat trick that these guys do here, and I can see how it would become an optical illusion at certain angles. The man from Torrid. I'm not sure how legit this story is, but still interesting nonetheless. On one sunny day somewhere in July in 1954, an ordinary-looking man arrived at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. There was nothing strange about the way he was dressed, sporting a nice suit and tie with a groomed beard. He was fairly familiar with Japanese, so no red flags thus far. It wasn't until officials noticed on his passport that he was coming from a country called Torrid. There is no such thing as Torrid, that we're all aware of, and when this man was confronted by police as a possible fraud or threat, he got extremely frustrated and tried to explain that it is in fact real and has been around for 1,000 years. So they got him to try and explain where on the map it was located, and apparently it was supposed to be between Spain and France, but he had no idea why it wasn't showing up on our maps, as he kept repeating he's made multiple trips to Japan before. He even had papers to support his case. However, before they could take a look at them, the man suddenly disappeared from his hotel room, one that was located on the 7th floor with no balcony. The police tried to keep him there while they figured things out, so they had no clue where he went. A lot of people use this theory to support the claims of parallel universes, but I don't know. It sounds a little too good of a story to be true.
Quantum fluctuations in everything would be responsible for another universe having slightly different laws of physics than ours.
Whether it's a strange World War II era disappearance that remains unsolved, multiple stories of time slips in the same English location, or a quantum thought experiment that is truly mind-melting. This list is full of the unexplained, the unusual, and the unsettling, so let's dive right in. Starting off this list today, we have the disappearance of the L8 blimp crew. The L8 blimp incident remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries from World War II. The blimp was initially initially on a patrol mission to scout for enemy submarines along the California coast. As it returned, something very unforeseen occurred. Observers on the ground noticed the blimp's erratic behavior before its descent, yet no distress signals were sent from the crew. Upon investigation, all control systems within the blimp were found operational, and personal belongings of the crew were still on board, suggesting a very sudden and unexplained disappearance. What makes this case even more intriguing is that the blimp managed to navigate and land in a densely populated area without causing significant damage or injury, almost as if it were being controlled or guided by unseen hands. The absence of any struggle or attempt to communicate by the crew has fueled speculation about paranormal activities, including theories of abduction or unintentional travel to another dimension. Despite various investigations and inquiries, no conclusive explanation has been provided, leaving the fate of the crew a mystery and a source of speculation about the potential for anomalies or breaches in our understanding of space and time. Next up on our list today, we have the Liverpool time slips. So this is something I didn't know, but apparently there is a phenomenon of time slips in Liverpool, particularly around the area known as Bold Street. These experiences typically involve individuals or groups of people feeling as though they have momentarily stepped back in time, encountering surroundings, people, and objects that appear to be from a different era. In the case of a policeman named Frank, he described seeing cars, fashion, and shop fronts that were all distinctly from the 1960s, a very stark contrast to the 1990s environment that he had come from. Even more intriguingly, upon returning to the present, he could find no logical explanation for his experience, as everything in his surroundings had returned to normal. Such incidents raise questions about the nature of time and reality. Are these time slips just hallucinations, or do they offer a glimpse into a parallel universe or an alternate reality that momentarily overlaps with our own? While definitive scientific explanations remain elusive, these experiences continue to provoke curiosity, suggesting a world that is much more complex and mysterious than our conventional understanding may allow. Next up, we have the mystery of Gadianton Canyon. In 1972, the journey of 4 university women took an eerie turn when they opted for a shortcut through Gadianton Canyon, hoping to shorten their trip back to Southern Utah University from Nevada. As they ventured deep into the canyon, the familiar desert landscape transformed inexplicably into an alien terrain, marked by an unsettling quiet that blanketed the area. The road beneath them changed to gravel, and the surroundings became increasingly unfamiliar and very foreboding. The group encountered structures that defied conventional architecture, featuring angles and materials that seemed out of place and time. Most unsettling were the egg-shaped vehicles with elongated, opaque windows, unlike any cars or machinery known at the time, seemingly parked or abandoned. These elements contributed to a palpable sense of dislocation, and there was an overwhelming sense of dread. Despite the urge to explore or understand their bizarre surroundings, fear and survival instincts prevailed, prompting the girls to get out of there as fast as humanly possible. Miraculously, as they retraced their route, the surreal landscape gave way to the familiar high desert scenery of southern Utah, though no clear boundary marked the transition. Subsequent attempts to locate the strange road and its surroundings ended in vain, as no maps or local accounts could verify the existence of the places and objects they reported seeing. This very strange experience led the women, and those who later heard their story, to speculate that they might have inadvertently crossed into a parallel dimension, a brief glimpse into an alternate reality abruptly encountered and then left behind. Next up today, we have the Vanishing Hotel. A French couple traveling in the 1970s decided to stay at a quaint, seemingly out-of-place hotel in the countryside. The hotel and its staff appeared to belong to an earlier time, and the couple noted peculiarities such as the absence of telephones or modern amenities. I feel like that's a really big red flag. I don't know. No telephones at a hotel? What is this, Norman Bates? Upon trying to find the hotel again on a subsequent trip, it was nowhere to be found, and no one in the area could recall its existence, suggesting a possible slip into a parallel world. At our halfway point today, we have the interdimensional ring. A person reported finding a very unique ring that did not belong to them in their home. Despite thorough investigation questions, they could not trace the ring's origins or how it came into their possession. You just know that somebody in that household was getting accused of cheating in that moment. The mysterious ring appeared to possess unusual characteristics and design unlike any common jewelry. Its style did not match any known era or culture, which only deepened the mystery surrounding it. As the person wore the ring, peculiar incidents began to unfold. Objects in their home seemed to move independently, and time appeared to distort, with hours passing in what felt like minutes. On several occasions, the wearer claimed to see fleeting glimpses of otherworldly landscapes or to hear whispers in an unrecognizable language. These experiences intensified the belief that the ring was not merely an object of unknown provenance, but a conduit to parallel dimensions, offering brief, disorienting peeks into these alternate realities that coexist with our own. Would you want a ring with that kind of power, or would you journey across the land to destroy it in a fiery pit?